Welcome back. In this video, we'll be talking about the structure of an expository essay, as well as the types of examples that should be used to support the essay. Now, previously, we discussed the purpose of the expository essay, and we clarified that the expository essay is designed to explain a topic and provide examples that represent it. So expository essay is designed to explain and provide examples. Now, we've talked about the structure of essays before, and we've discussed that they all essentially follow the same structure, which is the IBC structure or intro, body, conclusion structure. So no matter what genre of essay you are writing, whether it's expository, evaluative, analytical, etc., you will still be using the intro, body, conclusion structure. So the intro is always designed to essentially introduce the topic. The body provides supporting details and context. In this case, since we are writing an expository essay, we will be using examples as opposed to evidence. So we will put here examples. And then, of course, the conclusion is answering the so what question. And by doing so is trying to arrive at what is significant or important about the essay. So recall that if an essay cannot communicate whatever its central message is, or if the reader leaves the essay and doesn't understand what he or she was supposed to have learned from reading it, then the essay was a failure. Nothing was communicated. If you are having a conversation with someone and the other person does not understand what you are trying to say, then you cannot be said to be communicating successfully, right? You are communicating unsuccessfully, and this applies also to essays. So in the case of an expository essay, if we are supposed to be providing information about a topic, if we are supposed to be teaching, informing the audience about a certain topic, then it is expected that at the end of the essay, he or she should understand something about that topic, whether it was a survey of certain details related to it, or one particularly important detail that we wanted to emphasize. The audience should know something new about the topic that we were writing about. So it's very critical that in an expository essay, we know what we are trying to inform the audience about, and we know best how to exemplify and to relate that content to the audience. So let's come up with a kind of basic example to illuminate how we would approach writing an expository essay. Usually, when writing an essay like this, we want to think about how we can break down a bigger topic into smaller topics. So let's take, for example, the American government. So it's a US government. And we want to find a way to break this down into something more digestible so that we can communicate it more effectively to our reader. And so to do this, we will think about the three branches of the US government. The first being the legislative, the second being the executive, and the third being the judiciary. So we have our three branches. We have our three subtopics compared to the one major topic. So we always want to be thinking about this. We arrive at a topic, and then we want to divide that topic into subtopics. Really critical that we do this. This makes our writing easier, and it makes the comprehension of our reader also easier. So how would we translate this topic, the US government and its three branches, into an expository essay? So as usual, assuming we have already done our pre-writing, we then want to move into outlining. We don't want to actually start drafting our essay yet until we know how we're going to organize our thoughts. So we understand that to outline, we need to have our IBC structure. So we're going to have introduction, body, and conclusion. And we will break down the major details and information that we want to include in each of these parts. So we know that in the introduction, we need to introduce our topic. In this case, we are introducing the United States government. So we may want to provide some basic context about what the US is before diving into the government. We then want to provide some kind of thesis statement that exemplifies, right, the three branches. So we have our three branches. These are our examples. In the body, we're going to break that down further, and we'll devote a body paragraph or section, so maybe 2 to 3 paragraphs, depending on the scope of the essay and the amount of information we want to include about each of the 3 branches. So we have our first section about the legislative branch. We have our second about the executive. And our third would be about the judiciary. When we get to the final part of the essay, which is the conclusion, we want to be talking about the so what. So in this case, something that we may want to take away about the US government is its system of checks and balances. No one branch of the government is intended to be stronger than the others, and each is given some kind of countermeasure that is used to temper the power of the other 2 branches. So the legislative can never overpower the executive can never overpower the judiciary, for example, the judiciary can never overpower the legislative, and so on and so forth. So this is how we would structure an essay. Notice that the purpose of this essay is not to convince the audience to think or feel a certain way about the US government. That would be a persuasive essay or an argumentative essay. In this case, we simply want to inform and educate the audience. This means we're keeping a neutral tone. It means providing objective examples, and it simply means defining concepts and topics more so than providing value judgments about them. So this essay should not provide a value judgment on the US government. Its goal is simply to explain, explicate, and exemplify. It should not provide any sort of persuasive stance. Otherwise, it would become a persuasive essay. So with that said, hopefully this example provided some additional clarity about the structure of an expository essay. As you can see, it is still fairly simple. It's not especially complicated, and it is the most basic of the essay genres to learn. So usually it is the first one that students start working on. Typically, other topics include things like explaining maybe the steps to get into college, defining certain topics, what it means to be a good person, etc. Right? These are kind of basic topics that students usually see. So you can expect to find kind of basic, easy topics, quote unquote. You will expect to see an emphasis on examples and objectivity and neutrality. And you will see an emphasis on defining and exemplifying terms. So if I need to talk about what a good person is, right? If the topic is what constitutes a good person, I would need to provide examples of what constitutes a good person, what a good person looks like in certain situations, and so on. So the goal is always to establish the topic, to provide examples or representations of that topic, to explain its subcomponents, and then also to make sure that I'm defining the topic well and avoiding making value judgments. So we have our topic, we break our topic down into subtopics, we provide examples of what the topic looks like, or we discuss its subcomponents, right? These would be our supporting details to our main idea, so to speak, and we want to avoid making value judgments on the topic itself. Hopefully this has provided some clarity as far as how an expository essay should be structured and supported. In other videos, we will continue to discuss the other genres of essays and compare and contrast them to the expository. I hope to see you then.